Welcome to Benita's Maternity Program webinar. Today, Sister Ingrid Groenewald will be speaking to us about baby necessities. Welcome, Sister Ingrid.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me again. And it's my pleasure to be able to talk to all you pregnant moms, and perhaps there are some moms who already have their babies. But I think the majority of the ones today will probably, getting excited all about, having their baby. And I know quite a few ladies who are expecting their babies here over the season, the busy time. And the big question always is, do I have everything that I need? And I know if I think about, being pregnant with my own, especially with my own, the first one, that's many years ago, it's sometimes so overwhelming walking into any kind of shop and looking around, and it almost seems like you need everything in there. And even the advertisement obviously is really marketed to expectant people, expectant moms and dads, to specifically say, you need these things. But the big question is always, do you really need it? And what are the things that you really need for your baby? So hopefully today I'm going to answer some of those questions for you. So we're going to go through a couple of things just to give a little bit of an outline. Even now packing for the hospital, packing for going to the hospital for the birth. What do you need to pack in there? What do you need to get for that? And then once you come home from the hospital, what are the things that you really need for your baby? Okay, so this is my baby. This is my baby, Erica. This is my fourth baby. Actually, I had her first. I was about 4 years old when I got her, and initially I played with her, and now she's back in my life because my kids have now grown out of being demos and so on. But anyway, so yes, so this is all about these little people. If we think about what you're going through now, it's all about what do you need for this little this little person. And if you already had a baby, and I'm sure if you have spoken to some other moms who already have babies, it's amazing to see how this little person who's just this size is really ruling everything. So some fun and games for you guys, in the next couple of months. So, but it's all good. It's all good. Right, so if we think about the hospital, going to hospital, and what do you need to get for that? I would actually say initially, you have to pack 3 bags. Okay, the one bag is obviously for yourself, okay, your things, and then obviously also a labor bag. So we're just gonna go through some of the things. So for the labor specifically, you would need to have a bag with things in that you're gonna use for the birth or for the labor, that you don't have to jump around and have to to search for certain things. And it would be, my suggestion initially would be by having something to wear that is very big and loose, like a big t-shirt. And I remember I just went into my husband's cupboard and just got his biggest t-shirt out, and that really worked well. So anything that is loose and comfortable that you can just wear. So anything big, that is something that you have to put in there. Otherwise, a gown also works well. Now we're going into the summer and it's hot, perhaps a summer gown also works quite well. If you've got long hair, hairbands are quite important to put in there. Face cloths, homeopathic remedies like rescue is quite good. Some relaxing music is nice to have. And these are the things that you have to beforehand, even the music, go through the things that you like and enjoy and basically get them ready to listen to in pregnancy, but also in labor, because remember, your baby knows that music. So if you want to play something that's not soothing just for you, but also to your baby. So then the exercise ball is a definite must. If you don't have one, I recommend one of these big exercise balls. I call them labor balls because it's very useful in labor. It's very useful even with the baby for burping and for just soothing your baby. It really is. And also for exercises for you afterwards. Then the yoga mat is quite a useful thing to have. Some candles that you can use, perhaps some scented candles if you'd like that, or just some candles to have like a nice atmosphere in the room. And then the last thing that I would definitely also put in this bag is any kind of affirmation, positive affirmation, something like to tell yourself, I can do this, my body's designed to do this. And this is also obviously that the partner needs to constantly tell you. And a little sonar picture is also quite useful there. So those are the things that I would say for labor is quite important to have. So a spray bottle even, some to to just cool yourself. And then also either in the labor bag or a separate bag are the snacks. Okay, and this is important to also get beforehand. And this is anything that is going to keep your energy levels up. And this would be energy snacks to, you know, like Super C's, Jelly Babies, some anything to eat, water bottle to drink, you know, to drink the water out, or by energy drinks that you can take out of there, some dried fruit and those kind of things. Okay, so those are the things that I would say in the labor bag. Okay, then for postnatal, so now your baby is born, so what do you need to get to take to hospital for the first day or two? So for those of you who are having your babies in hospital, you know, you obviously have to pack some things for after the baby is born. And here a tip would be nighties or a shirt that has buttons, not something like that that is closed. You don't want to lift up for the feeds. You want to be easily accessible, to open the boobs, you know, to open the you know, the shirt for easy access to baby. Okay, so you want something with buttons. Always check for buttons. So look at nighties or a t-shirt or something that has buttons that you can wear initially. Again, a gown is the most fantastic thing to have. Obviously in the winter time it's nice and cuddly, but now in the summer definitely invest in a summer gown, something that's light and airy, and it's not going to make you hot, because sometimes it's just easy to just wear a gown, nothing else, just underwear, like a panty, and then the gown, because you can easily open and close it, you know. So it's really, and you can put your baby in and close it for some skin to skin, so it's really a useful thing. So a gown for mom, some slippers, nursing bras. Okay, that is important to have some nursing bras that you take with to hospital, as well as some breast pads. But the breast pads, I would say it's very likely that you're only going to start using them from about the third, fourth day, and that is about the time that you should already be home in most cases. But it might be a good idea to have some anyway in the bag should you need them. But it's only really when the milk volume increases around about the third, fourth day that you're going to start using them. Breast pads, like I said, then nipple cream is an important thing. Remember that you can use some breast milk as well to put on. So it's not always, you know, that you have to buy all these things. So this is definitely one of the things that I would say, you know, if you're running on a tight budget, like what can you possibly not buy? Then I would say, okay, remember that with breast milk, you've got some really wonderful magical stuff, and that breast milk is something that can be used also for healing and for recovery and so on. So for sore and tender nipples, you can just after feed put some breast milk on, let them air and so on. So this is something that you can also use. Okay, then breast shells, I do recommend to have some, especially if you think you're going to have some sore sensitive nipples. That is not to wear with the feed, it is that you wear between feeds. So you wear it under your clothes. So it's like a dome really that actually goes onto the breast, and it's that the nipple is not touching anything. So that is quite a useful thing for the first week or two to have. So that is called a breast shell. Okay, so that I would say is also quite useful. Then maternity pads are important. Definitely packing about 2 maternity pads, you know, 2 packs that you can take with to hospital. And then by looking at your underwear, you know, your cotton stretchy underwear works well. Otherwise, you get these disposable underwear that you can actually buy, you know, it's very easy to just rinse them. It dries very quick and you can use some of those. But I would also, another tip here is to say, well, how can you save some money? And I would say if you have stockings, I don't know how many of you still wear stockings, but if you have somewhere in your cupboard old stockings that you're not wearing, that you can just cut off the legs, you know, so just the top end of the stockings, of long stockings. So it's you making yourself really disposable panties. Okay, so that is really because it's stretchable and it can go over the belly, and it's really comfortable as well. So yes, anything that will keep the breast pad, the maternity pads in, is going to be quite useful to have. Then I will also say Arnica D6 tablets. That is something that you also get for yourself to take with to hospital. And once your baby is born, you start taking these Arnica D6 tablets. It helps a lot tremendously for healing. Any healing that has to take place once the baby is born, whether it was a cesarean section or a natural birth, any kind of healing, swelling, bruising, anything that has to grow back together, it is wonderful stuff. Okay, so that is called Arnica D6. That is definitely that was always in my bag as well. So I would definitely recommend that. And obviously your personal things, your personal cosmetics, and then going home outfit. Remember, you want something loose, something comfy. Okay, you're not going to go on a on a parade or something, so don't worry about looking really fancy and so on by leaving the hospital. Even pajamas would do, really, so anything that is comfortable for you to wear. Okay, then what is in your baby's bag? What do you need to pack to hospital for your baby? Okay, so here is, first of all, you would need clothes. I would say 3 sets of a baby grow, a vest, and some socks, and possibly a little hat. And if I'm talking not a hat, a little cap like this, or a little beanie. Especially in the summer months, you get these very thin ones, and those are quite nice because it also just keeps the head nice and warm. And that is really comfy for baby. So you would need some clothes for that, for your baby. Remember that, especially for not just for first-time parents, but with newborns, just often when you think you're changing the nappy, the next minute the baby's weeing and pooing all over everything. So that is why you need actually some extra. So if you're just going to stay in hospital for a day, don't just take one thing with, rather have more, purely because you would need possibly more things to put on your baby. Then if we think about the cord to clean the baby's umbilical cord, in the past we used to say you have to clean, but nowadays we actually say you just leave it alone, unless you think it is a little bit smelly, or you actually need to, it looks a little bit yellow, then by cleaning it, and there you use cotton wool or earbuds and either surgical spirits or of the healing powder, and that is also a homeopathic remedy. So those are the things I would not immediately just start cleaning. It's just something to possibly have in the home should you need that. Okay, so those are the kind of things that you would need in the nappy bag. And obviously remember, you need a car seat. If you have your baby in the hospital, when you go home, you need to put your baby in the car seat. Do not be tempted to sit with your baby in your lap. Okay, we all know accidents do happen, and we're not planning accidents. So it's best to always have your baby securely fastened in a car, in a baby car seat, so that your baby is well protected. And practice these things beforehand, exactly how to do this and how to buckle your baby. Don't do this for the first time if your baby's already in the car seat. Okay, then by looking at, okay, now you're home, or even now in pregnancy, getting everything ready. The big question is, do you need a baby room? And here you're going to get a lot of different answers. And I think for most first-time parents, it's very likely going to be the answer is yes, definitely you need a baby room. And yes, it's a nice to have. It's nice if you have space, if you've got an extra room available, then by all means, it's great to have a room specifically for the baby. Okay, where you can have a cupboard with the baby's clothes in and so on. But let me tell you, that for the first couple of weeks, it's so much easier. And I would even say first couple of months, it's so much easier having your baby really close to you when you're sleeping at night. And some people even have baby really close, by co-sleeping, or by having baby in a co-sleeper cot next to the bed, or just the cot or the basket next to the bed itself, but baby's close. So a lot of people eventually end up just using their own room as a baby room. So it all depends on your space as to if you have a space available for your baby, or like an extra space or a room that can be used. But then like the big things, like the hardware for baby, what do you need? Okay, so you need possibly to place your baby in something like a cot. And remember, as a newborn, like I said before, you're probably going to end up sleeping often with your baby. But at some point, these babies are starting to roll around, and then they crawl around. And also, you don't want your baby to fall off like your bed. So then it's quite nice to have like a space like a cot, or something where camping cot or a normal cot, where you can put your baby in and he can't get out. Okay. So you also need a changing table. And here's another thing where you can save some money. You don't need to buy the fancy changing tables. And it's great if you can. There are lots of, places where you can pack some things and so on. But it's quite easily also doable if you've got a little table at home that you can put something underneath so that when you stand, you want to stand comfortable and work in front of you, like changing the nappy without bending. So if you put like any kind of bricks or something underneath, you can lift the little table. So if you have a table somewhere lying around that is not in use, this is a useful thing, okay, that you can actually use that. The next thing that is a big question mark is, what about a baby bath? You know, we often think a baby has to have a baby bath, but again, let me tell you, to get the water in and out is quite a mission, and it's quite heavy. Okay, so unless you have it installed in the bathroom and or you possibly have some sort of fitting that easily can do this, that's great. But for the majority of people, it becomes to be quite a headache, the baby bath, to get the water in and out. So this is where one must remember that babies are small initially, and you don't bath your baby every day. It's actually recommended once a week initially. So it's not a constant thing. And a lot of people eventually end up bathing with their baby. So somebody's in the big bath and the baby's handed to you, and then afterwards you hand the baby back. So that is something that one can do. So you don't, or you can even use the kitchen sink. I know a lot of babies, even my own, we're often like in the kitchen sink or in the bathroom, in the sink, that you can use. It's easy. You just plug it in, and if you think it's a little bit sharp at the bottom, just put a face cloth on there, and you can get the water in and out very easy. Okay, so if it's big enough, then it's nice. You can bath your baby like that. So these are the kind of things that you can say, well, perhaps you can see how it goes, and if you really think, no, you really need a baby bath, then always later on you possibly can go and get someone, or a baby bath. Then you also need a pram. This is, again, something that I would say depends on your lifestyle. Are you walking around? Are you often outside? What are you doing exactly? If that is the case, that you're on the go constantly, a pram might be useful, but a sling or a wrap that you can put your baby in is also quite a useful thing. Okay, so, the pram might be something that you can consider. Okay. Baby monitor this also depends on where you live and how big your house is. For some people, it is a necessity, in the sense that if you worry that you won't hear your baby, if your baby wakes up, your house is perhaps big, or you are often outside and your baby's inside, then by all means, the baby monitor might be a good idea. If you know you're not going to use it, you are very close to your baby sleeping, then this is also where I would say it's possibly not something that you're going to use a lot, okay? But for those who do use them, a lot of moms do eventually feel that this is the one thing that they use the longest that you ever buy, for your baby. You can even go visiting and you take this with your baby, sleeping in a different room where you are visiting, your friends or family, and when your baby's waking up. So there are some useful purposes to a baby monitor. So yes, that is definitely something to consider. And then also a thermometer. So these are the baby hardware things, so a thermometer, useful to have, and to possibly sometimes use it. Hopefully that you're never going to use it, but it's always nice to have to know what is the temperature of baby if you think your baby has a fever. Okay, then the baby software. If we think, what are the other things that you need for your baby? Obviously, you need, nappies. Okay, so here is the thing. Some parents, and I find currently a lot of parents are moving towards the cloth nappies, and that is great. If you do that, you can use the cloth nappies or disposable nappies. If you're using the disposables, remember, if the bags are sealed still and your baby house has outgrown the number, a lot of the shops do exchange, so it's not a situation of, what do you do now with these nappies? Okay, and I do know a lot of moms also sell them between one another if you do have some extra nappies. Okay, but yes, you need nappies. definitely. And then initially, remember, you're going to use quite a lot of nappies initially, sometimes up to 10 nappies a day, even in the first, couple of weeks, and then they come down dramatically. That is why a lot of parents initially feel that they're using disposable nappies just for the first week or two, just to get used to having a baby, how to change the nappy and all of that. And then once they feel that they're actually starting to settle, then they're switching over to cloth nappies. But it really is, at the end of the day, whatever works for you. Okay, then you also need, obviously, the nappies. With that is either wet wipes or just the cloth that you can wash the cloth and just rinse, or just wash the bum after pooing and weeing. So that is something that you would need for baby. You would need a hairbrush for the baby, some vests, some baby grows, some leggings if it's cool, jerseys, depending on the temperature of the time you're going to have your baby. Now in the summer times, it might not always be used, these thick kind of baby grows. So anything thinner might be a better thing to have. And then, like I said, some caps or some something to cover the head might be useful if it is cold. Some receiving blankets, the fitted cot sheet is important, and that it's also waterproof, okay? Because sometimes these nappies can leak, and you don't want to wash the mattress and everything always afterwards. Same thing goes in for your own bed. Okay, so look at your own mattress cover. Is it waterproof? Please, this is something that I would say it might be a good idea to anyway get one, even though you're not planning to sleep with your baby. It does happen every now and then. So then it is useful to have a mattress cover that is waterproof. Okay, because we also sometimes change our baby's nappies on our beds. And believe me, these little accidents do sometimes, not just sometimes, they often happen. Okay, also then, but this is where I would say you would need a baby sling or a wrap or something that you can wear your baby. Okay, so that is very useful, especially for the first few weeks where it's new for the baby. It's useful to have your baby in a carrier, in any kind of carrier that your baby feels secure, and so on. And then if we look at the baby, to come back to the baby bath, you would need some sort of lotion and shampoo and so on. So look for something gentle. Usually it's often recommended the first week or two to not really use too much like the cosmetics on this baby's skin, but then from there on you can start using things like the shampoo and the lotion and the bum cream that you can put on the baby. Okay, so if we think those are the kind of big things, if you go into the shop and you have a look around, like these are what are you needing for your baby, those are the kind of things. Then if we think for you, for the mommy, okay, what do you need that you can use once you're home for the recovering, okay, for the recovery of the birth? If you had a natural birth, you would be told, and at the hospital, and the doctor and the midwife will tell you, you need to do some sitz baths, and that is where you're sitting with your perineum, with your bum. You're really sitting in water that is dissolved, salt is dissolved in the water, and it's just really to keep the perineum clean. That is the area that had to stretch for the birth, okay? So that is very useful to have some salt available that you can just basically mix in the water. You can either use just a big container that you can sit in, or just by using a little bit of, put a little bit of water in the bath and take a seat in the bath, and you just basically rinse the perineum with salt water. Okay, so that is very useful. As well as in the toilets or in the bathroom, have a jug available so that you can use either a jug or a little bottle, a spray bottle, that again you can use, dissolve some salt water, with the salt in the water, lukewarm water, and you basically, every time that you're on the loo, you rinse, okay, and that really keeps everything healthy and clean. So that's very useful to have. You also need some cooling packs, or for either the perineum, possibly if you have stitches and if it's uncomfortable, and even for the boobs. And something that is homemade, and what works really well is if you take maternity pads drops, and you just wet it slightly. You can even take rooibos tea, make it very strong, and then just put a little bit on the maternity pads, and you freeze them. Okay, so 1 or 2 that you freeze, and then you take them out. They're ice cold, and you can wear them as a pad, and it really works well for the soothing for moms who really are in discomfort. Okay, so that is something that we can really use. And then obviously your pregnancy or your breastfeeding vitamins that you need. If you still have pregnancy vitamins, finish them. Okay, you can either continue with them or then switching over to breastfeeding vitamins, which are really good to use. And then obviously healthy snacks and things like that. Okay, so the normal kind of things that you would need. Okay, then if we think about breastfeeding, the initial things that you would need, that is really one of the advantages of breastfeeding your baby. You don't need a lot, you don't really need a lot initially. You basically need your baby, you need the boobs. And then obviously if we think about the first, let's say 3-4 days, then suddenly the milk comes in and it starts leaking a bit. So this is where the burp cloth comes in nicely. It's actually the stortduk for baby that suddenly becomes, the breast. How would you say that, breast cloths that is quite a useful thing that you can actually use. So and that's really just for yourself. And then also some breast pads that you would need here, nipple cream if you can, like I said, lanolin based ones. Otherwise just use breast milk that you can use, and then the breast gels if your breasts are sensitive. Okay, with anything breastfeeding related, if you have problems and so on and you're not quite sure if you need certain things, it's always best to contact your midwife or your lactation consultant, because they would be able to advise you exactly what is needed and how to resolve any kind of problem should you have. Okay, for moms that are breastfeeding, if one thinks about going back to work and so on, this is where the breast pump would come in. But because we are all different, our kinds of jobs are different. Perhaps you're working from home, or perhaps you are away the whole day from 8 to 5 or whatever time, it's different situations. So that is why it's not recommended for every mother to have a breast pump. A lot of moms can go without a breast pump, but this is where you would need to look at your situation to see, do you need to buy a breast pump or not? It is quite an expensive little thing, so I would definitely say get some professional help here as to looking at your needs. I would not think to buy a breast pump before your baby is born. That is it's definitely, I would, unless you have a very good special somewhere, but it is something that you can later on, getting closer to going back to work, then by starting to need to express and storing milk and so on, and then you can start looking at breast pumps and so on. You would also then need some containers or breast milk or expressing, the milk bags that you need to have to be able to freeze milk. That is also something that you would have later on. But now in pregnancy, I wouldn't worry too much about these little things. First have your baby and to see what do you need initially for the baby. So I wouldn't worry too much about bottles and teats and so on. Definitely something that I would advise you at this point, do not be tempted to actually have bottles even. I would say buy the bottles later on, teats later on, and definitely do not have any kind of formula in the cupboard, okay? Some moms think they're very well prepared. They just have some available for if it's needed. But, sometimes if it's there, it's just too easy, if you're tired and so on. And we know it's such an advantage for a baby to not get formula, at a young age, so you can exclusively breastfeed for longer. Okay, so that is where I would say don't stress too much about getting all these things together. You have your baby, and that is that, and then you basically take it from there on and reach out if you need specifically any kind of thing. The last thing that I would actually just quickly go over, and I know this is really a mouthful of things that I'm talking about, but you also need a baby bag, okay? And the baby bag is a bag that you would grab. It's almost like your handbag. And I know some moms use a handbag and they have a baby bag. And some just use the baby bag, and there are also some places where you can put your own things in, like your wallet and your keys and so on, because wherever you go with your baby, you would need some extra things. And what are those extra things? babies tend to poo when you are not home, and often in the car seat, and often it climbs up here, you know, it climbs up into the hair later on. So this is really where you would need extra clothes. Okay, always an extra set of clothes, and always make sure that it's still fitting the baby. Okay, so that it's actually something that you can put on your baby. And then this is where you would need, obviously, like I said, a change of clothes and some nappies, and even little bags where you can put in either dirty clothes or dirty nappies that you can just take home then. So any kind of, any kind of thing that you would need to take with, if you go, you have in your nappy bag, so that you can just grab it and go. Okay, so yeah, so breast pads, birth cloth, the wet wipes, those are the kind of things that I would say it is important to always have in the nappy bag. It has happened very often that I see a mother come, or a dad actually coming with their babies, and then they try to change the nappy, and then suddenly, you know, the nappy, there is no nappy in the bag anymore, or there is no set of clothes and so on. So always make sure that you have some spare things in your nappy bag available always. Okay, so this is really a whole mouthful of things that I would say that you need. Remember, your baby has no clue. Okay, has no clue what we think we need. Okay, he just knows, or she just knows she wants her mommy. Okay, mommy and daddy, but specifically mommy is so important. Okay, so if you have your baby in your arms, this is really what your baby needs. And actually, it's just to have something on that's warm for your baby, and then some, you know, nappies, and that really is basically what you need. So always think twice about if you really need it or not, and then you know, and take it from there. So I hope, I know I have spoken quite a bit, but I hope I've gave you some thoughts on what do you need, and what possibly you can come around with not getting initially, and then just once your baby's born, you can actually see if you need certain things or not. Okay, so I don't know if there are any questions. Are there any questions that you would like to know that I can just quickly answer? Then you are more than welcome to just type the messages in the message box, and I can we can just have a look at them. There's a question and answer, or there's a chat box, and you can just type in there if there's anything that you would like to know. Mosquito nets are also quite important. So now that we're just waiting for a question, this is something that, especially in the summertime, and depending on where you live, you might live somewhere where there are lots of mozzies. Mozzies go straight to these little babies. So it is really useful to have something that can protect your baby. So a mosquito net is quite well. And then you also get these mosquito dehumidifiers, they call them. It's a little device that actually sucks in the mozzies. So it attracts them, they come closer, and then it sucks them in, because it's really always a thing that mozzies love babies. And then, you know, it's terrible if your baby's bitten by mozzies. So it is a very useful thing to have something that you can try to get the mozzies away from your baby. Another thing that I want to just mention here that I did not mention earlier on is, you know, if we think about newborns, if we think about the nails of newborns, they're quite long. So you would need either little, you know, nail clippers, or you would need a scissor. But I find actually like an Emily board works the best. So you can just have an Emily board, and just basically by filing the little nails, because it can be very overwhelming to try to clip the little you know, the nails, because it's so easy to clip the little finger by accident. Okay, so I see here's a question: dressing babies. Mine is due early January, and I live where it's very hot. How do I know if the baby's too hot? Okay, so this is definitely a good question. How do we know your baby, how to dress your baby well, is you always think like one layer more. So if you feel, you know, if it's really hot, and you would actually go without a shirt, not that we as women are doing that, but if you see men are doing that, okay, then it's likely that your baby will just have a baby grow on. If it's really, really hot, then I suppose in some situations it would just be the nappy, you know, where the baby's just lying in the nappy. But usually it's just something really short sleeve, like a vest even, or like these little I don't know what even you call it. It's not a baby grow. It's like without long legs and arms. So everything is, the baby has like this little outfit on, but it's a summer outfit. So often it's just in that. But you can definitely know your baby is going to be very uncomfortable if your baby is too cold, and your baby is dressed very summerly and your baby's cold. These babies do not sleep well, they're often awake and they're really moany and so on. And then it's best to always feel the temperature of baby, not the hands and the feet. You put your hand at the inside on the chest, so on the chest of the baby or on the back of the baby, on the skin itself, and that actually tells you if your baby is hot or not.